Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Braden, Tim, Second Legacy, you are amazing. And we got the bill, people. The National Reciprocity Bill. If you have not read it, you need to. This thing has more candy in it than we thought it did. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit giddy. Now we start the fight of getting all the representatives on board, getting the senators on board, getting Trump to do it as he promised. The whole rigmarole. It's basically the inverse of the last 4 years. However, before we start that fight, I'm going to tell you, and Tim, because he hasn't read it yet, all the things in here, and we're going to get a raw reaction from Tim himself, the Military Arms Channel, the man, the myth, and the legend. Very raw, extremely raw, uncooked, if you will. So make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. Tim, oh my God, Dr. Slides actually got me.
I'm watching what's popping on the screen. I'm like, oh no.
Okay, that one actually got me. Okay, you didn't get me, but our counterpart behind the scenes did. So we did a video last night where John Cornyn was riding to our aid. He was the Paul Revere of the Second Amendment. He has come to save us from on high. We covered that thoroughly, so make sure you guys watch that video. However, the bill in the House, H.R. 38, this is the one to watch. You've got all the co-sponsors, you've got all the emphasis, you've got all the House leadership, you have the Senate on board, you have the president or president-elect on board, and you have the leadership of the Republicans on board. If you're going to have one work, guys, this is how they do it, okay? So, Tim, kind of a laying of the land. Mm-hmm. We talked about yesterday that our bills that are going out that have very few co-sponsors, like the one that Lauren Boebert and Burleson put out for disbanding the ATF that have like 4 or 8 co-sponsors. Yeah. This one has 132 as of this morning.
Yeah.
So this is clearly the one they're putting the energy behind.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into this, what are your hopes, wishes, and dreams because you haven't read this yet.
No.
What are your hopes, wishes, and dreams that you hear me introduce in this? What would you love to see, and what are the poison pills you want to avoid?
Well, I mean, overall, I would just like to see the federal government say, hey, states, do what you're supposed to do constitutionally and honor each other's licenses and permits. And if you have one of the 29 states that doesn't require a permit, then just simply being a citizen of that state should let you carry a firearm in all 50 states, right? Just whatever your home state does, the other states have to honor, right? Or ideally, it would be really cool if it just said, hey, everybody, the entire country is just constitutional carry now. We're not.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be the best outcome, but I don't know. And then a poison pill would be something like some federal licensing taxation scheme. So I think we covered off on that in the last video.
Yeah, we touched on it. But it was important to lay it out as we go through this. So I've got some really great news for you. Oh, I'm so excited to keep going because there's some other goodies in here that they slipped in that are kind of like the ultimate like backhand. You know that GIF where it's like Batman slapping the crap out of whoever's in front of the camera where it's like, Gah!
You can carry your guns and suppressors are off the registry. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. That's not that one. It's not that one, but we're going to get there. Okay, so this is amazing. So, Dr. Slides, just follow me here. We're just going to kind of go through this. The good news here, Tim, this is a 6-page bill.
Oh,
this
nice.
is not a 600-page pork-filled BS bill. This is 6 pages. Okay, so that's really, really good. Here's the bill, H.R. 38, as I mentioned. Here's the point. So the summary. To amend Title 18, United States Code to provide a means by which non-residents of a state whose residents may carry concealed firearms may also do so in the state. So one of the things that you wanted to see, remember, it's all about state level. State A, recognize and respect State B.
Right.
Okay, so if you have constitutional carry, like in 29 of the states, we want you to recognize it because from the home state in another state. That's the goal.
Right.
So as we keep going, they've got the names, they've got all this stuff that's not really that important for the actual breakdown. But let's kind of walk you through what they're saying, because there's something in the first segment here. This is on page 2, about midway, Dr. Slides. This is segment A. Notwithstanding any provision of the law or any state or political subdivision thereof, except as provided in subsection B, and subject only to the requirements of the section, a person who is not prohibited by federal law from possessing, transporting, shipping, or receiving a firearm, who is carrying a valid identification document containing a photograph of the person, and who is carrying a valid license or permit which is issued pursuant to the law of a state, we're coming back to that in a second, and which permits the person to carry a concealed firearm or is entitled to carry a concealed firearm in the state in which the person resides, may possess or carry a concealed handgun other than a machine gun or destructive device, so they were specific, that has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce in any state that we're going to show you in a second. So right there, Tim, in that first middle section, it's all about the state. Mm-hmm. They are not saying federal. They're not saying new permitting scheme. They're not saying new licensing scheme. This literally says pursuant to the laws of the state. Right. If you can do it in the state, recognized by other states.
So they're just saying that you have to have state-issued proof, ID, driver's license example,
exactly,
to prove that you're a citizen of Indiana and therefore subject to the laws of Indiana and all 50 states. So, yes. I know a lot of folks, and I don't like it either, where you have to carry proof of identification or potentially be, right, in violation of some crime or some law. But here in Indiana, we are a constitutional carry state. You don't have to provide any documentation if you have a firearm on. You don't even have to be a resident of the state in Indiana, right? So it's kind of weird. I don't like the mandatory, like, let me see your documentation, but whatever.
Well, of course,
I get it.
But this is a really important thing, though.
I just want national reciprocity
exactly
with just recognizing we all have a right under the Constitution to carry our firearms. There's your reciprocity.
Correct.
Constitutional carry for everybody. Yeah.
Completely agree.
But we're not going to get there.
And this is a really important piece to understand in this fight. That's not the conversation that we're having right now.
No.
The conversation that we're having right now and the conversation that this bill is bringing up is states recognizing existing states' rights to give their citizens the ability to do X thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution that says states
kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that. But the really important thing here, and I think this is a key point to have a conversation around and bring out as much as we can, is this an absolute perfect win? You don't need a permit. You don't need a license. The Second Amendment is my permit. The Second Amendment is my license. No, it is not that.
Right.
But is it a step in the right direction to give us rights that they have taken from us? Yes, absolutely is.
Yeah. So this is one of those things where we have to apply what we've talked about here on the channel before. Baby steps, right? We have to be content in making forward progress, all forward progress. We can't throw this bill out simply because it has a requirement to show identification or
correct,
whatever, because this is a step in the right direction. Is it what we all wanted? Probably not. I'd like to see something more comprehensive that just basically says, hey, this is America. We have a Second Amendment. Go forth and carry, but
correct,
we're not there yet. I'd also like to see NFA undone, but I already understand that we're going to have to get the suppressors off, the maybe SBRs off, and just chip away at it piece by piece, because almost never in the political sphere do you get everything you want at the first go around. You just have to be persistent. So
yes, it is baby steps. They took our rights in baby steps, and now we're taking them back.
That's how we reclaim them. Yep.
That's how we reclaim them. Okay, that's very important. So we don't kill momentum on this because it's not perfect. You don't let perfect be the enemy of the good.
Right.
It's a very important piece. All right, so let me show you some stuff that they put in here, and this is the only piece where they basically said, hey, we're going to keep a lot of the laws in place to pacify the left. Okay, so this is where they gain Democrat support. This is about right at the top of page 3. This section shall not be construed to supersede or limit the laws of any state that permit private persons or entities to prohibit or restrict the possession of concealed firearms on their property. So basically, if you don't want guns on your property, you can still say no guns on my property. Prohibit or restrict the possession of firearms on any state or local government property, installation, building, or base. So now right there, that's where you're going to see all the restrictions of you can't go in state buildings, you can't go in courtrooms, you can't go in school systems, you can't, all the state level. That's where they're going to set up camp, right there. That's the only thing in here that is like, I don't love that, but let me get to the rest of it, okay? So, I'm sure you have thoughts on that while I find the next person.
No, go ahead. I'm looking for some Giffords tweets, so you go ahead.
Oh, no, they're out there. Emma Brown, the director of Giffords, that's a good one to hit on this. She's already pissed. Really kind of funny, actually. All right, so let me jump to this next person. Oh, this part, dude. This you're going to find this very familiar. Okay, again, we're about bottom page of 3 going into 4, Dr. Slides. When a person asserts this section as a defense in a criminal proceeding, the prosecution shall bear the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the conduct of the person did not satisfy the conditions set forth in subsections A and B. When a person successfully asserts this section as a defense in the criminal proceeding, The court shall award the prevailing defendant a reasonable attorney's fee. They just put in the left's little trick of making all the financial penalties for you doing something wrong. They just reversed it completely. So if a state steps out of line and arrests you for having a gun or detains you for having a gun, and they can't prove you did anything wrong, you get them to pay your attorney's fees. Okay.
Nice.
I like that.
You said earlier that they put some of this verbiage in here to get Democrats to come along. Has there been any indication that there are any Democrats?
Yep.
There are.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
So this really has a good chance of passing.
Exactly. That's where this gets really intriguing. So do you remember the name Jared Golden from Maine?
Vaguely. He's the guy, the Democrat, who was pro-gun. And then in Lewiston, Maine, when that shooting happened, he came out and he became anti-gun. So Representative Golden has come out and supported this bill. Wow.
A Democrat in the House.
Well, there's one, and that means there may be more.
There's one.
So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's all. All they need to do is get the rhinos to play along. That's probably harder than getting a couple of Democrats to come along, but get the rhinos to do what they're supposed to do. And then, if you get a couple of Democrats, that's just icing on the cake.
Exactly. That's exactly right. You're padding your numbers.
Yep. It'll breeze to the Senate and it'll breeze to...
Well, we're going to talk about the Senate in a second because that's going to be the hardest point. Just like when the Democrats struggle.
Because we got 60 votes there, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So listen to this language that brings up that. Remember, I just told you they have to pay the attorney fees, right? Mm-hmm. The court says you have to pay it. This is what they have to pay the attorney fees for if they do this thing. This is right in the middle of page 3 of your slides. A person who carries or possesses a concealed handgun in accordance with subsections A and B may not be arrested or otherwise detained for violation of any law or any rule or regulation of a state or any political subdivision thereof related to the possession, transportation, carrying of firearms unless there's probable cause to believe the person is doing so in a manner not provided by this section. You cannot be arrested. You can't be detained. That's really important. They put the word detained in and arrested because they can play this little game of we didn't arrest you. We just held you here for 36 hours. Yeah. Detained. That's a big one. And then if they do it, they have to pay the attorney fees.
So here's another thing that this makes me wonder about. So, I travel all over the place carrying guns. And sometimes you get into states. Down south, I've noticed this. So Indiana has very, very few laws regarding firearms, ownership and carrying of firearms. And so one of the things that we can do here in our state is we can carry firearms into bars. We can carry firearms into restaurants that serve alcohol. Mm-hmm. There's no state law that says you can't be armed and even have a drink in your hand. You can't be drunk and disorderly and armed. You'll get charged for that. But just simply being in possession of an alcoholic beverage and a firearm is not a crime in our state. But that is not the case in all states, right? I want to say Tennessee has a law. When I was down in Nashville one time, I remember seeing, signs. I believe it said something about if an establishment derives more than 30% of its income from alcohol sales, you can't carry a firearm in. But not next to the sign was another sign that said this establishment, derives 28% of its revenue. So you don't know what it derives, right?
Right.
So you don't want to go in there because, they serve alcohol. And if they serve alcohol and their income, you see what I'm saying? So we don't have that restriction in my home state. I'm probably not aware of those restrictions in other states. Another example would be the no gun signs. In my state, they can be ignored, except on federal buildings and things like that. But if a business puts up a no gun sign, that's just a suggestion. If they find out you have a gun, they can trespass you and make you leave, but simply being on their property because they have a sign with a firearm is not a crime. But that's not the case in all 50 states. So I wonder how it addresses those issues because as a Hoosier, I have very, very few restrictions on where and how I can carry a firearm. Not the case in most of the states around me.
Right. And what you're bringing up there is a very similar argument that we've had around sensitive places in all the blue bastion gun control states. You can carry your gun, and we went from may issue to shall issue, but we didn't tell you where we couldn't carry it.
Right.
That's the whole game, right? However, I've got to get to these pieces of candy in here, Tim, because we're getting real close to the candy that you're going to be very surprised about.
Okay. All right.
So, one more piece on the whole the lawsuit thing. Listen to this one. This is about halfway in page number 4. A person who is deprived of any right, privilege, or immunity secured in this section under the color of any statute, so any rule, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or political subdivision thereof, may bring an action in any appropriate court against any other person, including a state or political subdivision thereof, who causes the person to be subject to the deprivation for damages or other appropriate relief. You can now sue the DA, the prosecutor, you can sue the court, you can sue the state, you can sue all these places who would detain or arrest you.
Yeah, this is really
come at me.
Yeah, this is really going to deter some of these anti-gun states.
Yes, because think about it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but think about this though. So you live in a state that is very strict on such laws, and I just stroll in there as a guy from Indiana, and I get different treatment than you do.
Right.
I mean, that's really got to anger the citizens of that state, right? They had to go through all these hoops, for example, to get their licenses. In Indiana, you just pay a fee, apply for it online, it shows up in the mail. There's no testing, There's no pictures, there's no anything. Right?
You know what that sets up?
What's that?
A lawsuit.
Well, that's where I was going with this. This is going to anger the citizens of those states when they see other people from more free states coming in, and they're like, how come they get to carry a gun? They don't have licensing in Indiana, but we do. Yeah, it's like this could have the effect of bringing these other states along and honoring our rights.
Yep, dude. I love when we do this right now. Exactly. And so this is something that's so crucial. I have said on my channel, my own personal channel, I've said on this channel, the people who are behind the blue curtains, the ones who are the punching bags in their Second Amendment rights, the ones who are literally under the thumb of oppression in their states, particularly around the Second Amendment fight, they always get beat up first. This legislation, if this bill becomes law, you're going to have two classes of people. You're going to have the people who live in blue states, who have all their gun rights underneath a very tyrannical regime, jumping through 8 million loops, training requirements, fingerprint requirements, all these requirements. And then you got somebody from Tennessee who walks in and says, I want it. You get fingerprinted. Actually, that's only for the concealed carry. If you just walk out and say, yeah, I'm a Tennessean, I'm an American, here's my Second Amendment rights right there in my pocket.
Right.
You have now two classes of people. What do courts really hate, Tim? Two classes of people.
They want to level that playing field.
Yep.
And I want to
sets up the table.
I just want to clarify one thing because it may cause some confusion in a previous statement I made talking about Indiana, how there's no picture requirements, there's no fingerprint requirements. So Indiana, before we went constitutional carry, had concealed carry licenses. But then again, it was more or less a formality. It was a joke. I mean, most people didn't even get the license because there was no real penalty to not having one. So we were constitutional carry, even though there was a law saying we needed a permit. But we've done away with that. But you can still get a permit in the state of Indiana because some states will not honor your constitutional carry status until this passes.
Same in Florida, same in South Carolina.
So what I'm saying, you can you can get a permit in Indiana. I still keep my card permit with me, even though it's not required in my state, just because when I go to other states, I can show that I have a permit. So anyway, I just want to clear that up.
No, and that's a very good point. And now I'm about to bring the first piece of candy.
Okay, awesome.
They did not have to do this, and they did it anyway. So this is the tail end of page 4 into the top of 5, Dr. Slides. So this is number 2. First of all, they say in section 1 right here, identification document is a state level. This is a state level document system. This is not a federal permitting law, nothing like that. This is all state level, okay? But now to number 2. Tim, you're going to have so much fun with this. The term handgun includes any magazine for use in a handgun and any ammunition loaded into the handgun or its magazine. Yeah. They just got rid of mag limits.
Well, beyond that, they're trying to circumvent the states, the anti-gun states. Yep. They're cutting them off at the knees here because they know they're going to try to find loopholes in this to say, well, you can have your gun, but you can't have your magazine.
Absolutely. They just undercut the whole limiting of magazines. New York might be about to have an influx of a whole lot more magazines. Tim, could our side have learned something?
Well, I'm looking at that. Where does it say? It doesn't say anything about capacity, though, does it?
No. It does not say specifically capacity. What it says is the term handgun includes any magazine for use in a handgun.
I got you. Okay.
So, you can't be more clear than that. Is this a magazine for a handgun? Yep. Any of them.
Yeah. Okay. No, I can see that.
So,
I wish it was a little bit more clear. An awful lot hinges on the word any in the state of New York.
You wanted to say in there specifically, That means you, New York.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want?
Got something in there.
All right.
Like, there shall not be any limits to the capacity of magazines.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. And so they also went after the feds, Tim. Oh, it makes me so happy. Listen to how they go to the feds. This is the bottom of number 5. A person possessing or carrying a concealed handgun in a state under subsection A, which is all of this I just read you, may do so in any of the following areas in the state that are open to the public. A unit of the National Park System, a unit of the National Wildlife Refuge System, public land under the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Land Management. That's a massive one.
That's like 50% of the United States.
That's 50% of the United States. Land administered and managed by the Army Corps of Engineers. Land administered and managed by the Bureau of Reclamation, and land administered and managed by the Forest Service. They just picked up every national park, every single national forest, and every single area where the BLM is managing it. That is like 75% of all federal land.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's big.
Shockingly, Obama allowed us to carry in national parks.
Shockingly.
I've been to national parks where they told me I couldn't have a gun.
Isn't that weird?
And so it's like it was such a crazy story. I went to a cave system in a state that's pro-gun, right? And long story short, we're at the top of the hill and they do the brief, and of course it's a national park, so I'm carrying my gun. I have a pocket knife and a flashlight and all this other stuff. And then we walk down this long hill in hot, sweaty summer weather. We get down to the mouth of the cave, and then the park ranger goes, "Okay, no flash photography, no weapons of any kind, no firearms, no pocket knives, no flashlights." I'm like, you know what? The time to tell me was like a mile back at the top of the hill.
You didn't say anything.
Yeah, I didn't say anything. I just moved my pistol to my front to appendix carry, and I had my wife walk in front of me because I know they're going to turn the lights out in there. I didn't want somebody bumping into me screaming, "He's got a gun!" You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's like that was so frustrating to me because I know at that time Obama had already signed that bill saying national parks you could carry, and they're going to try to pull some shenanigans saying, "Well, but you're in a cave. We don't want a gun in a cave." Yeah, because guns in caves are a bigger problem than guns in your living room.
Problem.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Right.
Well,
so anyway.
it's God's living room. So I mean, like, you gotta be careful for that, right?
Yeah. So it's good to see them reinforcing this.
But I love it though, dude. I love it. And the other thing here is it basically says this gets passed. It's going to take effect 90 days after the enactment.
Nice.
So it's a 90-day period. So it's 3 months. My overall perspective on this, extremely positive. Yeah. Extremely. Yeah. You've got, I mean, on a high level, you have a reciprocity from state to state. This does, I talked to GOA, this does actually cover constitutional carry into places like California.
Awesome.
So you are covered on that one. You have basically kind of an insulation from any type of magazine limits of which they would naturally go to next, right? Like, yeah, sure, you could do this, but you can only have 2 rounds in your mag. Like, nope, any. So take that, you little commies. Then you picked up federal land across the board, and you can also sue the offending organizations like state, DAs, prosecutors. And that's a really big deal in big blue bastions because our people are about to get paid. That's
where some of these gun insurance companies that get insurance for attorneys to protect in case you get into a lawful shooting or something. Maybe those companies should also take up being able to pay for if you're harassed by a DA or some jurisdiction, your insurance will allow you to sue them. That would be awesome because that would also go a lot further to putting pressure on these states when they know that there's organizations 100%. Out there that are going to fund these lawsuits because lawsuits can be really expensive and they like to hide behind that fact. What's interesting about all this though? Giffords did chime in on X about this yesterday.
I know, I saw that.
Dr. Slides, can you throw that up for us? Let's take a look at what old Giffords had to say. Of course,
they got community noted.
They did, and it's beautiful, and and the community note's hysterical because it's exactly what I posted. So I ratioed them. This is me responding to them, but they said, "New, the House GOP has introduced a dangerous bill that will force every state to let people with violent histories and no firearms training to concealed carry."
This is how it's so good.
This is how they mark the anniversary of the assassination attempt of Gabby. It's all about you, Gabby.
It's all about Gabby. All about Gabby.
Yeah. I'm sure they weren't sitting around in Congress going, "Oh, well, what dates are open for us to put this bill out there? Oh, hey, look, the anniversary of Gabby being shot. Let's do that day." It didn't happen. God, they're so self-absorbed. But anyway, so then here's the community note. Doc, throw that up for us. H.R. 38 specifically states that only people who are not prohibited persons, such as violent felons under federal law and who can carry legally in one state, may carry in another state. Full text here. So, of course, the community notes comes to the rescue once again. My comments to them were fun. And but that's basically what the community notes said. I said, my comment was lies. It would force states to honor each other's licenses and permits, kind of like how your driver's license is recognized in all 50 states. It has nothing to do with allowing criminals to carry guns. Where do you people get these outrageous lies? And, of course, it ratioed them. Yeah. So.
Well, my other favorite thing about this that no one's really talked about yet, and you and I just kind of naturally stumbled upon it. Other than all the greatness in here, Tim, this sets up a lawsuit to bring the gun controlling agency, or excuse me, the gun controlling states directly into equilibrium with the freedom states. Yeah. Because the freedoms, you can't do a lawsuit in a free state like Tennessee or Georgia or Florida, different varying degrees of freedom, and then compare it to California and say, I want more restrictions, because what they will say is, no, you can't do that through a lawsuit. You have to pass that through your state legislature. And so you can't bring it up to the gun control requirements of a California or New York through lawsuits, but you sure as hell can bring it down through the SCOTUS because you've got an inequity between citizens.
Yeah.
This sets up a longer fight, which would kick them right in the balls.
Yep. No, this is not good for the anti-gunners. And then if we get this on top of the SCOTUS hearing the assault weapons nonsense, it could be a grand year in 2025. I mean, we're already seeing lots of people talking about getting suppressors off the registry this year. National Gun
I want
Rights
that one.
Was posting about that. It's like, it's a real possibility, folks. All these things are a real possibility if we do our part, which means contact your representatives and let them know you support these laws. We got to push these over the finish line. We have 4 years, well, maybe just 2 years, depending on how the midterms go, to push this stuff through. That will go by very quickly. Yep.
Let's just plan it for 2. You know what? 4 will be candy. Great. Awesome. Right. We'll see what happens. Let's plan it for 2.
Yep.
Let's get this done just in case.
Yep. Got to get it done.
We have 18 months before re-election time comes. Let's make it happen.
And on that note, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon.